Hello guys, this is What About Nintendo, and today I am here for another review. Today we're going to be reviewing Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus on the Nintendo Switch. This is actually going to be the first video review I've ever done on my channel. I did have some on my blog that were written, but this is the first one I'm doing on a non-written review. Thank you to Bethesda for actually sending me a review code for this game, so I got this completely for free. So thank you for that, and yeah, we got a lot to talk about, so let's get right on into it. Graphics and performance. So I'm going to keep this area short because I already covered it a lot in my preview of the game and my first impressions, which you can check out right there if you want some more detailed thoughts on the graphics. But in essence, the graphics look really good. Probably the best looking Switch game to exist at this point. It just looks really good, and the performance is pretty solid. I'd say the graphics look fairly close to the Xbox One and PS4 version, minus the resolution and the frame rate. Obviously, the resolution is much lower at a dynamic 720p, and the frame rate is cut in half to 30 frames per second. However, this is not completely, just looking at those numbers saying it's cut in half, saying the resolution is way lower, isn't completely accurate because the PS4 and Xbox One both also had variable resolutions, the Xbox One often hitting down close to 720p, and the PS4 version hitting closer to 900p, and both had frame rate issues where it would constantly drop down into the 40s and 50s, so neither of those versions really kept a rock solid 1080p or 60 frames per second either, so to say that the gap is that big would be a little bit misleading. However, that's not to say that the Switch version isn't a noticeable downgrade in both of those areas. There are times when the game gets kind of blurry, there are times when the game will stutter, especially in the more open segments, but fortunately the open segments are few and far between. This game is mostly corridors and section-off areas that are far more enclosed, and those areas typically run at a rock-solid 30 frames per second. Well, the bigger areas might have some dips down into the mid-20s, and at worst down to the lower 20s, but you never really noticed it for that long. Usually it lasted maybe up to 5 minutes at a time, but it was few and far between, and this is hours and hours of gameplay would happen every couple hours for about 5 minutes or so. It never really that big of an issue, and luckily, instead of like a lot of games where it will stutter or skip when the frame rate drops, this game kind of goes into almost like a sort of slow motion feel, and you're just kind of slower, which helps with the gameplay. Although it does feel like you're running through water or something, at least you can actually aim and hit the enemies instead of bouncing all around and not really knowing what's happening. It doesn't feel the best when this happens, but at least it's better in that way. But the frame rate's pretty solid for the most part, and the graphics are good. Sound design and HD rumble. I put these two topics together because I feel that both rumble and sound design are meant to do the same thing, and that is to really immerse the player into a game and start breaking down the walls between reality and the game you're actually playing. This seemingly small topic can really go a long way into helping the immersion in the game and can make the overall atmosphere of the game way better. Wolfenstein 2 does this pretty well. The sound design in this game is really good. Every sound effect feels as it should. Every gun sounds right. Every object sounds right. Every enemy sounds right. Footsteps, anything. You can tell the direction of an enemy depending on where their footsteps are coming from. You can tell the direction of gunfire. All the sound effects sound really good, and they do enhance the gameplay and feel really immersive. And the music is no different. The music really is good in this game. It's very dynamic in a way. Slower when you're in the more exploration parts of the game, while ramping up as you start to battle and getting even bigger as the amount of enemies come or the level of enemies. Like if there's a boss, the music will just start getting absolutely crazy, and it just really adds to the epicness of every battle and makes you just get really pumped up and you just feel really good about it. The HD rumble in this game is also pretty decent. While it's no Super Mario Odyssey level of rumble, the rumble in this game is pretty good. Every gun seems to have, for the most part, individual different forms of rumble. You can feel, if you're holding a gun in your left hand, you typically feel in the left hand, and if you're holding it in the right, you'll feel it in the right Joy-Con, and each in different parts, and it will feel, you can feel in each individual bullet, depending on what gun you use. The shotgun feels really good throughout the entire controller, so it does feel very different for each gun, so it's definitely HD rumble there. However, there's some issues I did indeed have with it. There were some guns that just didn't have rumble for some reason. For example, there was a super weapon you can find in the level that is a laser cannon. You shoot it, it's just a gigantic laser, and it feels really good to use, except there's no rumble on this gun for some reason. It doesn't exist. And there's some other oddities. For example, if you use the assault rifle, there's this odd thing that happens where the rumble is only felt in the left Joy-Con for some reason. I'm assuming if you use the Pro Controller, it's only felt on the left side. Well, I haven't actually tested it with a Pro Controller because I don't have one. I use the Joy-Cons, and you only feel it in the left Joy-Con for some reason. It doesn't matter if you're dual wielding and you're holding it. If you shoot on the right one, you still feel in the left one. And if you're dual wielding, say, a shotgun and an assault rifle, if you shoot the assault rifle, you only feel it on the side with the shotgun. I found this to be very weird, and it's a flaw that feels very jarring when all the other weapons feel so right. Story and characters. The story in this game is very good. Essentially, it's set in an alternate reality where the Nazis won World War II by destroying New York with an atom bomb. Adolf Hitler now rules the world, and Nazi cruelty is felt far and wide. You play as a character named William J. Blazkowicz, who is trying to defeat the Nazis along with a resistance group called the Kreisel Circle. This game is actually a sequel to Wolfenstein: The New Order, and follows directly after the ending of that game. However, you don't have to have played that game in order to enjoy Wolfenstein 2, as they give you a full recap when you start up the game. However, I recommend you do play the first game before this one, as naturally you're going to understand the ins and outs of the story much better. However, I've never played the New Order, and understood what was happening pretty well in 2, so it's not required. While the basic narrative seems like your typical Call of Duty campaign, only less historically accurate, the story in reality is anything but. There's more twists and mysteries here than a curvy mountain road. I was constantly surprised by what happened in the places I went to, and it kept the game feeling very fresh throughout. There were several situations that I got into that I had no idea how I was going to get out of, and the answers blew away every single one of my expectations. Not only is the story itself good, but the characters are very fun as well. While the game has a pretty dark story overall, that doesn't keep the game from having very humorous characters. The characters are constantly cracking jokes that made me laugh and smile throughout, and I really got attached to many of them. For example, my favorite character in the game is Set Roth, an old Jewish scientist and probably the funniest character in the entire game. He's constantly calling people yingale, schmucks, and talking about smeckles. It's pretty hilarious. Not to mention he has a pet with the body of a monkey and the head of a frickin' cat, which he calls Shoshana. How can you not love this guy? There's also a lot of cool story moments outside the levels and main cutscenes. As you walk through your ship, the Evos Hammer, you will find many different people walking around and doing various tasks. Sometimes as you're walking around, people will start conversations with you or the people around you, and they're filled to the brim with humor and personality. These conversations feel very natural and make the world feel more real, as well as giving personality to who may otherwise just be generic NPCs, as well as flesh out the personality of the main cast. There is, however, one annoying thing about the story in this game, and that is the absolute annoyance of it when you do a repeat playthrough. There are several gameplay segments of this game that are essentially just unskippable cutscenes in disguise. These scenes offer no real movement, no Nazi shooting, no exploration, nothing. You're essentially just in a cutscene where you can move the camera slightly, and they're completely unskippable. On top of that, they're long. Like really, really long. While they're great story sequences in the first playthrough, they suck if you're attempting to replay the game and just want to kill some Nazis again. There are also some pacing issues that are even worse upon a repeat playthrough. In between missions, there are weird little side quests that you are required to do before accessing the next mission. Weird things like relocating your drunk friend's missing mechanical arm, or checking out the shooting range on the ship. These were never really fun gameplay segments to begin with, and are even less fun on repeat playthroughs. Besides these complaints, I thought the overall story was very intriguing. It kept me guessing and was full of great characters that really had fleshed out personalities. Gameplay. Overall, the gameplay of this game is fantastic. Every fight feels fast and fluid, and the amount of options is absolutely astonishing. Want to go full stealth mode and kill everyone without being noticed? Okay. Want to go guns blazing, just absolutely annihilate some Nazis? Gotcha covered. Weapon variety is also great, with the option of 6 different guns and several different super weapons that can be found while playing through the levels. Aside from the super weapons, each weapon can be dual wielded at any time, and you can mix and match which weapons you want to wield and which arm you want them on. It's super customizable. On top of that, you can find upgrade kits that let you customize the weapon itself. For instance, you can add a scope, or a bigger clip, or even make the bullets more powerful at the cost of rate of fire. Speaking of finding upgrade kits, exploration elements are also blended very nicely into this game. With alternate pathways, the need to explore for health and armor rather than just having your health auto-regenerate, and looking for the occasional super weapon gives reason to look around a bit instead of just charging straight through a level. Upgrade kits, however, aren't the only thing you can find in the game. There are tons of different collectibles scattered throughout the various levels. From cards with pictures of popular stars on them, to concept art of the game, and even notes and letters left behind by the characters that you can read for that extra bit of lore. Going back to the gameplay itself, the game took me about 11.5 hours to beat the main campaign, which is spread out over several levels and tons of different environments. You never really know what to expect level by level, and each environment felt unique. You could be blasting your way through a post-apocalyptic New York, then find yourself shooting the KKK in Rockwell, New Mexico at Papa Joe's All-American Diner, to then be in Washington, D.C. in a courthouse. You never knew what to expect in this game. Beyond the levels themselves, though, the game rarely tries to shake up the gameplay in any meaningful way at all. You're almost always on foot and just doing the same old shoot the Nazi and run method, which, while fun, gets a little old after a while. I would have liked a level where perhaps I'm using a turret from the inside of a helicopter, or operating the cannon of a tank, or hell, let me ride that cool-ass one-wheeled motorcycle that we see him using at the cutscenes. Something like that would have really made the gameplay feel a lot more varied, but unfortunately there's almost nothing like that in this game. Past the main campaign, there is a post-game. After you beat the main story, you can go back through the levels you previously explored to do special missions, where you're tasked to kill the Uber commanders to help the resistance in an assumed sequel. The way you unlock these missions is by decrypting codes using the Enigma machine, which puts you in a minigame where you have to match shapes. However, you can't just instantly decrypt every code. They come at a cost, and that cost is Enigma codes. The only way to find Enigma codes is to take them from various Uber commanders that you kill throughout the levels. Although the goal of these post-game missions are to kill the top-tier Uber commanders, there are many weaker Uber commanders scattered throughout the levels that will drop these Enigma codes. Overall, I'm not the biggest fan of the post-game. Although it offers more content, it just recycles levels you've already been through, albeit offering different enemy placement and possibly a different time of day. Not much else has really changed about the levels. They feel pretty much how they did the first time around. Not only that, but if you die at all in these post-game levels, you have to start all over again. There are no checkpoints. I had one time where I killed every single enemy in the level, only to be killed by the Uber commander I was hunting and had to start all over again. The reason I got killed was because of a mechanic that I'm really not a fan of, and that is if you get hit by an explosion, it will temporarily knock you down and leave you completely vulnerable. The annoying part about this is that it can be spammed unrelentlessly. I died to the Uber commander despite having full health before fighting him because I was in a close space and he kept knocking me down. I couldn't fight back at all because every time I would start to get back up, I would instantly be knocked down again, over and over and over again until I was dead. You can shoot while you're knocked down, but more often than not, when you fall down, your aim gets completely thrown off, and before you can re-aim, you've been knocked down again. There were several times that I died because of this, and it was super frustrating every single time. Finally, I want to go over the motion controls, because while I loved them for the most part, they did have some issues. First off, there's no recentering button like in Splatoon 2. Gyro is bound to get more and more uncalibrated as you play, and a dedicated recentering button can keep you from having your hands in uncovered precision mid-shootout. Essentially, in Wolfenstein 2, there were some areas where the gyro was off, and I had to twist my hands in a really weird position just to try to aim and shoot the enemy. I couldn't really fix it until they were all dead, because in this game, the only way to really recalibrate is to put the controller back how it's supposed to be, and move the camera back to center with the right stick. Overall, this just takes way longer than just putting it back in position and hitting Y, which you can do mid-battle. However, in this game, if you tried to do that, most likely you would just die. So you kind of are forced to be in this uncomfortable position for a while as you try to shoot and kill the enemies. Another issue is that when trying to use the gyro for extremely precise movements, it would sometimes stutter and stop tracking. For example, here you can see I'm trying to aim down my sights and shoot this enemy in the head, but the gyro keeps stopping, then all of a sudden jumping around, and I can't really aim well. It works fine for broad movements, but extremely precise movements simply don't work sometimes. This is a problem that I never had in other games like Splatoon 2, so I don't know why it exists in Wolfenstein 2. Besides the general lack in gameplay variety and missions, and an annoying mechanic or two, the gameplay of this game is fantastic. Shooting Nazis is super fun, and each weapon feels satisfying and unique. I had a blast almost the entire time I was playing, and the good definitely outweighs the bad. Review score. So the time has come for me to give a review score of the game. However, I don't really like the generic 1 out of 10, 1 out of 100 weird numbering system, as it feels very arbitrary and doesn't really give my opinions on the game very well. Taking this into account, I have made up a new scoring system that I think will work very well for my channel, and that is, instead of giving you an arbitrary number between 1 and 10, I'm going to be giving you a recommendation level. There are 5 different recommendation levels for this game, the highest being must have, then great game, then try it out, then not worth it, and finally at the lowest, stay away. My recommendation level for this game is very situational. If you have a Nintendo Switch and you plan on playing on the go a lot, or a Nintendo Switch is the only console you own, then I would definitely recommend this game to you. This is a great game, you should definitely check it out. However, if you have a PS4, Xbox One, or PC, and you don't plan on playing it on the go very often, then I'd say this game is just not worth it. There are other versions that will have better graphics, better performance, and probably be even cheaper than this game on the Nintendo Switch. So, if you do have another console and you're not going to play it on the go, I cannot recommend this game to you. It's just not worth it. But if you do want to play on the go, or the Switch is the only console you have, this is a great game. You should definitely check it out. Anyways, guys, that's all for my review of Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus. If you like this review, please like and subscribe for more reviews in the future. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these. Every game I get, I'm going to be trying to do a review for it. I'm going to be trying to get a lot more review codes. This was my first video form of a review, so there are bound to be different things that I may have not done as well as I could have. So let me know any feedback you have down in the comments below. And specifically, my review system as well is also subject to change, so if you don't like the way I do my review system, let me know an alternate way that maybe I could do it better, and I'll take that into account. I really appreciate all you guys' feedback, so please let me know down in the comments below. But anyways, guys, thank you all for watching. I'll see all you dudes later on What About Nintendo. Bye!